Hello, and welcome back to Human Behavior Lab. I'm New York, your host and observer. Today we have Juan joining us again. Welcome back, Juan.
Thanks, New York. Always happy to be here. What are we looking at today? I saw something in the news about intelligence and childhood that caught my eye.
Indeed. Today we're examining a recent study published in Neuroscience News about how childhood adversity affects the social benefits of intelligence. It's a topic that challenges some deeply held assumptions about meritocracy and success.
That sounds heavy, but also really important. I think a lot of us grew up believing that if you're smart enough, you can overcome anything. Is that not true?
That's precisely the belief this research challenges. Let me first explain what the study found. Researchers discovered that while higher intelligence generally leads to better social outcomes, more education, higher income, better health, this relationship is significantly weaker for people who experienced adversity in childhood.
Wait, so you're saying being smart helps less if you had a tough childhood? That seems unfair on top of unfair.
Your reaction is quite common, Juan. And yes, the data suggests exactly that. The study found that children who experienced what researchers call adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, don't reap the same benefits from their cognitive abilities as those who grew up in more stable environments.
What counts as adverse childhood experiences? Like, what are we talking about here?
ACEs include things like physical or emotional abuse, neglect, household dysfunction such as domestic violence or substance abuse, parental separation, or having a family member with mental illness. These aren't rare experiences. Studies suggest nearly 2/3 of adults report at least one ACE.
That's a lot more common than I thought. So what does it actually mean that intelligence helps less? Like, how much less?
The researchers found that for individuals with high ACE scores, the correlation between IQ and positive life outcomes was significantly reduced. In concrete terms, a child with high intelligence but high adversity might achieve similar educational outcomes to a child with average intelligence but low adversity. The advantage of intelligence gets, in essence, taxed by early trauma.
That's heartbreaking. It's like the system is rigged twice, once by having a hard childhood, and again by not even getting the full benefit of your own abilities.
That's an emotionally resonant way to frame it. But let's look at this structurally. The researchers identified several mechanisms for this effect. First, adversity affects the development of what psychologists call executive function, the mental processes that help us plan, focus attention, remember instructions, and juggle multiple tasks.
So even if you're smart, you might struggle to actually use that intelligence effectively?
Precisely. Intelligence and executive function are related but distinct. You can have high cognitive capacity but struggle with the self-regulatory skills needed to deploy that capacity effectively. Think of it like having a powerful engine but a faulty transmission.
That analogy really helps. So the intelligence is there, but it can't translate into real-world success as easily.
Correct. Second, adversity often creates what researchers call scarcity mindset. When a child grows up in an environment of constant stress or uncertainty, their cognitive resources get depleted by simply surviving day to day. This leaves less mental bandwidth for long-term planning and opportunity seeking.
That makes so much sense. If you're constantly worried about your next meal or your parents fighting, you can't exactly focus on your algebra homework.
And this isn't about willpower or character. It's about how the brain allocates limited resources. The third mechanism involves stress response systems. Chronic childhood adversity can lead to what's called hypervigilance, a state where the brain is constantly scanning for threats.
So instead of using your brain to learn and grow, you're using it to stay safe?
Essentially, yes. And this hypervigilance can persist into adulthood, making it harder to form trusting relationships, take calculated risks, or engage in the kind of social networking that often translates intelligence into career success.
This is making me rethink so much. I've definitely judged people for not living up to their potential before, but maybe there's more going on than I realized.
That kind of reflection is valuable, Juan. And it touches on something important. Our society tends to view success and failure through the lens of individual merit. We want to believe that talent and hard work are all that matter. Research like this complicates that narrative.
But New York, does this mean people who had tough childhoods are just stuck? That seems really hopeless.
Not at all. Understanding these mechanisms is actually empowering because it points towards solutions. Let me explain. The study found that the blunting effect wasn't absolute. It varied based on the type and timing of adversity, and importantly, on the presence of protective factors.
Protective factors? Like what?
Protective factors include things like having at least one stable, caring adult in your life, access to quality education, participation in extracurricular activities, and communities that provide safety and support. These don't erase adversity, but they can buffer its effects on cognitive development.
So having even one person who believes in you can make a real difference.
The research strongly supports this. A concept called earned security suggests that individuals who experienced childhood adversity can develop secure attachment patterns and emotional regulation skills through later relationships, whether with mentors, partners, or therapists.
That's actually really hopeful. So the brain can kind of heal, or at least develop new patterns.
Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections, continues throughout life. While early experiences shape neural architecture, later experiences can reshape it. This is why interventions in adolescence and adulthood can still be effective.
But I imagine it's harder to rewire your brain as an adult than to get it right the first time as a kid?
That's accurate. Prevention is generally more effective than remediation. But here's where the psychological analysis becomes important. Understanding these mechanisms helps us design better interventions.
What kind of interventions actually work?
Effective interventions target specific mechanisms. For executive function challenges, there are cognitive training programs and accommodations like extended time or reduced distractions. For hypervigilance, trauma-focused therapies can help recalibrate threat detection systems. For scarcity mindset, financial stability programs and mentorship can free up cognitive resources.
It sounds like addressing this isn't just about telling people to work harder or think positively.
Quite the opposite. One of the problems with how our society approaches adversity is the overemphasis on resilience as an individual trait. We tell people to bounce back without acknowledging that bouncing back requires resources that adversity itself depletes.
That's like telling someone to build a house while taking away their tools.
An apt metaphor. And this connects to a broader pattern in how people react to research like this. When confronted with evidence that individual outcomes are shaped by structural factors, many people experience what psychologists call system justification anxiety, discomfort with the idea that the system isn't fair.
I think I've felt that. It's uncomfortable to realize that maybe I didn't achieve everything just through my own hard work. Maybe I had advantages I didn't even recognize.
That self-awareness is valuable. And notice how it doesn't diminish your accomplishments, it simply contextualizes them. This is the analytical perspective we aim for, understanding the structures without judgment.
But I can also see how some people might react defensively. Like, I worked hard for what I have. Don't tell me it was just luck.
And that reaction is understandable from a psychological standpoint. People want to feel that their efforts matter. The research doesn't say effort is irrelevant, it says that the same effort yields different results depending on starting conditions.
Like running a race where some people start further back than others.
Precisely. And intelligence, this research suggests, is like having better running shoes. They help, but they help more if you're already closer to the starting line. If you're starting far back, even the best shoes face a longer distance. Now, let's consider the implications for modern society. This research challenges the foundation of what we call meritocracy, the idea that people should advance based on their abilities and efforts rather than their circumstances of birth.
But isn't meritocracy a good thing? Like, isn't that fairer than the old systems where your family determined your future?
The concept of meritocracy is appealing, and in many ways it represents progress. But this research reveals a flaw in how we implement it. If we measure merit only by outcomes, test scores, job performance, income, we're not actually measuring raw ability. We're measuring ability plus accumulated advantage minus accumulated disadvantage.
So someone who scores lower might actually have more raw ability, but they're fighting against headwinds we can't see.
That's the implication. And this has consequences for how we structure education, hiring, and social policy. If we want a true meritocracy, we need to account for the invisible barriers that some people face.
How would we even do that? It's not like you can measure someone's childhood adversity on a test.
Actually, there are validated screening tools for adverse childhood experiences. Some schools and healthcare systems are beginning to use them. But this raises ethical questions about labeling and privacy. There's also the risk of creating self-fulfilling prophecies if we treat people as damaged.
Yeah, I can imagine if a teacher found out a kid had a high AC score, they might lower their expectations. That would just make things worse.
This is why the psychological framing matters. The goal isn't to identify victims but to understand mechanisms and provide appropriate support. Universal design approaches, making systems work better for everyone, can help without stigmatizing individuals.
What would that look like in practice?
In education, it might mean building executive function support into all curricula rather than only for identified students. In workplaces, it might mean offering flexible work arrangements and mental health resources to all employees. These approaches benefit everyone while disproportionately helping those who need it most.
That actually sounds better for everyone. Why don't we already do that?
There are structural barriers to structural solutions. It requires upfront investment for long-term gains. It challenges our cultural narratives about individualism and self-reliance. And it requires acknowledging that our current systems aren't as fair as we'd like to believe.
Change is hard, especially when it means admitting we've been doing things wrong.
Indeed. But research like this provides evidence that can drive change. The more we understand about how adversity shapes outcomes, the better we can design systems that give everyone a genuine opportunity to succeed.
This has been really eye-opening, New York. I think I understand now why you always emphasize looking at structures instead of just judging individuals.
The analytical perspective doesn't diminish personal responsibility or agency. Rather, it helps us understand the context in which choices are made and outcomes are achieved. People who overcome adversity deserve recognition, but so do people who faced fewer obstacles.
And maybe understanding this can help us be more compassionate, both to others and to ourselves. Like, if you struggled despite being smart, maybe it wasn't a personal failure.
That's a meaningful takeaway, Juan. Self-compassion often requires understanding that our struggles have causes beyond our immediate control. And societal compassion requires recognizing that others' struggles may have invisible roots.
Is there anything people can do if they recognize this pattern in themselves?
Awareness is the first step. Understanding that your brain may have adapted to early adversity in ways that affect your adult functioning can be validating. From there, targeted interventions, therapy, coaching, skill building can help. And importantly, recognizing that you're not broken but rather adapted can shift the narrative from deficit to difference.
Thank you, New York. This conversation gave me a lot to think about. I hope it helps our viewers too.
And thank you, Juan, for your thoughtful questions. To our viewers, we observe, we analyze, but we do not judge. Understanding the structures behind human behavior is the first step toward building a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Until next time, keep observing.